Commercial surrogacy, as the Attorney-General reminded us at estimates earlier this year, is illegal in New South Wales. However, we know it occurs. We know from evidence given by the Slavery Commissioner at those same estimates hearings that commercial overseas surrogacy often involves slavery, and yet it continues. Many feminist authors have raised issues about the commodification of women through surrogacy, not just in slavery. Interestingly, to date, the commentary around surrogacy has been very adult-centred, a focus on the intending parents and their desire for a family, a focus on the surrogate woman and whether or not her bodily autonomy is being respected. The child in these discussions has largely been a legal problem to be solved. What is the pathway to citizenship for a child born of a surrogate mother outside of Australia? How should appropriate parenting arrangements be made for children born of surrogacy, commercial or altruistic? I've always found this troubling because surely children are at the heart of any surrogacy arrangement. But this tracks to a certain extent our public discussions about adoption and also donor conception through IVF. Adoption was originally seen as a way of caring for parentless children, but also very much a way of allowing childless couples to select their family from the orphanage. It was assumed that children would always be better off, and the focus was largely on adults. And then we began to talk to children, and adults who had been adopted as children, and we began to understand some of the issues for children which arose. And we changed many of our practices, moving from an adopter-centred approach to a child-centred approach. The Adoption Act of 2000 is a case in point, because this outlines that the following principles must now be applied by those making decisions about the adoption of a child. First, that the best interests of the child concerned, both in childhood and later life, must be the paramount consideration in adoption law and practice, and also to make it clear that adoption is to be regarded as a service for the child concerned. This is a healthy approach with which we would agree, but there is still much work to be done on the impact on children of other methods of family formation. I'm not aware of any studies yet which look at the experience of children in surrogacy, but happily we are now starting to see studies of donor conception through IVF. And of course this relates closely and is usually a part of surrogacy. My Daddy's Name is Donor is a report released under the auspices of the Commissioner on Parenthood's Future, a New York-based think tank. I acknowledge that this is US research, but there are no reasons to believe it cannot assist our understanding in Australia. This study is the first effort to learn about the identity, kinship, well-being and social justice experiences of young adults who are conceived through sperm donation. The study developed a representative sample from a web-based survey of more than 1 million households across the United States and studied in detail some 485 adults whose mother used a sperm donor and 2 comparison groups of a similar size of young adults adopted as infants and young adults raised by their biological parents. The report indicated that young adults conceived through sperm donation experience profound struggles with their origins and identities. This is not dissimilar to adoption studies. 42% of donor offspring agreed that, quote, "It is wrong for people to provide their sperm or eggs for a fee to others who wish to have children." This is compared to 24% of those who are adopted and 21% raised by their biological parents. This speaks strongly to the issue of commercial surrogacy. It also found that on average, young adults conceived through sperm donation are hurting more confused and feel more isolated from their families. They fare worse than their peers on important outcomes such as depression, delinquency and substance abuse. Compared to those who were raised by their biological parents, donor offspring were 1.5 times more likely to report mental health problems, twice as likely to report substance abuse problems, and along with adopted children, were twice as likely to have problems with the law before the age of 25. This study is far from definitive, but it is a reminder that we need to think about children in family formation and not just about the adults.